Okay, this is going to go out on Valentine's Day by the time it goes out, 14th of February. And this is a quick recording, and I really am recording it on the 13th and really absolutely worried about the Syrian situation. This earthquake has hit Syria as badly as it has hit the Turks and in some instances worse. And when I'm saying hit Syria, it's not like the news shows it, where we're talking only about hitting the northwest of Syria, the rebel-held area. It's hit right across Syria, and it's hit severely in Aleppo, and hit severely in Homs, and hit severely in Homa, and hit severely in Latakia. This has been a cruel and brutal earthquake. And nobody is reporting from the middle of Syria and talking about what's going on. And little or no aid is going through. And you hear people like Miliband from International Rescue talking about the difficulties of getting aid in because only one border crossing is open. It isn't getting across that single border crossing. Why? Because the Turks are not keen to see it go. Why? Because they are in desperate need of aid too. And goodness knows, I mean, there has been no disaster relief from anybody in the international community in the West to Syria. None at all to any intents and purposes. Zero, zilch, a complete pathetic ignorance of as people suffer and die in their thousands. And people are getting text messages from under the rubble and from relatives. And slowly the text messages stop coming as people are no longer able to message and they die. And all so many people in Syria. America has condescendingly said it will lift sanctions on to allow people to give aid. So why aren't they in there? Why isn't the Disaster Emergency Committee going in? Why isn't it providing relief or aid in central Syria? There are precious few. And those that are providing aid are coming from countries like Iran, for goodness sake. I mean, where is the West? Where are we? Have we no heart? Are we going to watch an entire nation? And it is not just, let me repeat, it is not just Idlib. It's all of Syria. The news is so misleading. The international news coverage is misleading. And you can blame Russia, you can blame Turkey, blame yourselves, blame Britain and America and the people of Britain. Do you know we have been trying to raise money at the Next Century Foundation, and it is immensely difficult to raise money for Syria. Why is that? Oh, I speak to friends and they say, oh, well, we've given to the Disasters Emergency Committee. Do you think they're going to give money in Syria? They're going to touch Syria? No. It's treated like a pariah state. You realize how poor Syria was before this whole mess began? Sanctions. You realize what that does to a people? Doesn't hurt the leadership. Don't you get that impression? What it does to the people? No fuel? No nothing? People living in mass poverty? They talk about 90% in Idlib living in at subhuman survival levels. 90% of Syria. 90% of Syria is living in misery. They cannot sustain themselves. But they had hope in their hearts because the war had ended. And now that hope has been snatched from them as they see family after family dying in this earthquake and and no help from the West. And it really is shocking. There are people in the Gulf trying to get hold of blankets and so on, but bless their hearts, what's needed in Syria is baby milk powder, nappies, female sanitary products, medical supplies, most of all medical supplies for the earthquake zones. That's desperately needed. We need, what do we need? We need everything from paracetamol to oxygen masks. These things are needed. Surgical instruments, everything. So this is vitally important, and it's, So what does that mean? That means donations to people who will take stuff in. We're trying to get hold of get one of our people in Beirut, Jaffa, to take a van up with medical supplies to Damascus so they can be distributed to the war zones, I was going to say. It's like a war zone, to the disaster zones in Homs and Homa and Latakia. One small town in Latakia has been wiped off the map. I mean, have we any comprehension how bad this is and how little anybody in the international community is doing to help in Syria? Zero from the West. Not something, zero. Nothing is being done as people are in desperate. And you know how cold it is? No fuel, no gas, no nothing. I mean, it is awful. It's cold now in the mountains in Syria and in the higher towns. And we weep crocodile tears. It's all over the news. We're watching it every day. There are even news reports, actually, astonishingly, coming out of Aleppo. Doesn't mean any aid's going in, does it? Nothing. Not even any conversation about aid going into Aleppo. Nothing. And we sit here. I mean, and it is possible. It's quite possible. If you've got higher value aid produce, I mean, I'm not talking blankets now, but higher value stuff, they'll accept them at the Syrian embassy in Paris and get them, there are lists of the medical supplies that are needed desperately. God knows. I mean, it is so bad and so wrong that this whole situation is ignored and continues to be ignored by the international community. It's one of the great shames of our age. I just am astonished by it, but what to do? Well, I know what we can do. I know what you can do. I mean, you can help. We have a page on Just Giving, if you look at on the Next Century Foundation has, and we will be getting money in. Lord knows you can do stuff. For goodness sake, do what you can. And for Syria, because you don't like the Syrian government, you're going to punish the Syrian people. That's what we're doing. It's cruel, really, to ignore an entire country in its hour of need, the way Britain and America and France and Switzerland and the way we are ignoring them, Spain. We're all ignoring Syria in its most desperate moment. And it's wrong. Cruelly wrong. Wouldn't you say? Okay. Bless your hearts. And say a prayer if you can do nothing else than light a candle in your church or before whatever God you worship. And say a prayer for the people of Syria. Because they have suffered a decade of war. And now they suffer again. God bless you.